countdown, viewers, because we see the President Putin will arrive in New Delhi, and the first thing will be a private dinner, which will be hosted by Prime Minister Modi for Vladimir Putin. It's a very important visit which is coming in. Thursday night is when it happened, and on Friday, he will be accorded ceremonial welcome at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, followed by a Rajghat tribute. He will later meet Prime Minister Modi. Huge updates coming in, viewers. Counting down for that meet. It's an inside scoop that Republic TV has got on the PM Modi-Putin meeting. Russian President Putin will visit India this week for a summit focused on strengthening economic, defense and energy ties. And this is coming in as Putin is going to arrive on Thursday and then hold talks with PM Modi on Friday. And both sides will be reviewing bilateral cooperation, discuss key regional issues, and sign many agreements, defense being one of the top agreements that we can expect more movement on. Oil and other issues will be on the agenda of the Modi-Putin meet. And like we said, that once Putin arrives, there will be a dinner between the two leaders. So the Republic gets you the inside details of the Modi-Putin meet. We're counting down to that. Okay, let's go straight across to Abhishek, who's joining us. All right, Senior Executive Editor Abhishek Kapoor is joining us. Abhishek, you know, this is a very big meet that we're counting down to, and the special coverage right here on Republic TV. But there's so much on the agenda. If you could help our viewers understand, what can we expect from this much anticipated meet?
Well, you know, this is one geopolitical event that's going to be closely watched around the world capitals. This is, remember, a global geopolitical event, a geostrategic event that's really panning out over the next 2 days, beginning tomorrow when President Putin arrives in the evening. And he's going to be there. We are told that he's going to be beginning or hit the ground running, meeting Prime Minister Modi at 7 LKM tomorrow evening itself. And then because it's a state visit, the day after tomorrow, beginning with the ceremonial welcome at the forecourts of the Rashtrapati Bhavan, to going to the Rajghat, to the Hyderabad House, delegation talks, restricted format talks, and then there is a business summit that the two leaders are going to jointly address at Bharat Mandapam in the afternoon. President Putin is also going to inaugurate the Russia Today operations in India, and then of course the state banquet, and before that meeting President Draupadi Murmu, and then of course he flies out late in the evening of 5th of December, which is day after tomorrow. That's how the engagements look like as of now. But what is important is that what's really on the table. And that is a complete appraisal of the India-Russia relationship. And the reason why I said the world community would be closely watching, world capitals would be closely watching, world leaders would be closely watching is because India has played an important role this side of Suez in having a two-way dialogue between Ukraine and Russia to bring an end to the war. Prime Minister Modi leading with that very famous quote now of this is not an era of wars. So everyone would be watching closely. Also, the fact that the West accuses India of indirectly financing the war machine of Russia by bankrolling Russian oil industry, because we have been purchasing Russian oil. That's something which is going to be on the table. India has maintained that we are guided by our national interest, by our own energy security needs and the needs of our citizens in terms of this decision to buy Russian oil, even if there is a bit of taper or up and down. And that's essentially a reflection of the industry dynamics and demand dynamics. Apart from that, coming as it does on the back of Operation Sindoor, and the fact that almost 40% of Indian war machine still remains of Russian vintage. In the case of IAF, maybe up to 60%. So the fact that platforms like S-400 played a crucial role during Operation Sindoor and in its success, that's really firmly on the table. We had Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov yesterday mentioning how both S-400 and Sukhoi 57s are there firmly on the table insofar as discussion on the defense trade aspect is concerned. Overall, defense, energy security, economy, and the fact that India and Russia have been in talks for a while to strengthen and operationalize a mechanism of trade in respective national currencies so that the restrictions that are in operation because of sanctions imposed by the West, specifically the United States, those can be taken care of. So I think more than the defense deal, where a deal might not be announced per se, but a lot of movement forward would happen. A crucial announcement perhaps could be that India and Russia would decide to carry on their trade in their respective national currencies, and a mechanism to be found and announced by which the trade would be taken forward, essentially focusing on the economy aspect. So while by way of optics, it's a strong statement being made by India of its strategic autonomy and multi-alignment policy that we have followed of late. At the level of economy, it's about India really firming up its options in terms of the changing global situation, where a sanctions regime is really crippling options in terms of buying your oil. Remember, in the case of Iran, also those sanctions affected India's energy security, and now in the case of Russia, of course, the larger objective of bringing an end to the war somehow in Europe, so that there are positive spin-offs, not just for India, but for the rest of the world also. So all those things would be on the table. It's a very significant visit, as I mentioned, panning out. Vladimir Putin arriving in New Delhi for the first time after the launch of the Ukraine war, and first time since 2021. So in that sense, it's a very significant geopolitical and geostrategic event taking place in New Delhi, with all the world watching closely.
Yes, and Abhishek, before I let you go, just one short question for you, because, you know, we put a focus on the high-profile defense deal. You spoke about this, but we're talking about defense deal, very high-profile ones, defense cooperation, S-400 and Sukhoi. Now, that is something to watch out for, Abhishek.
Well, you see, the Sukhoi 57 is, let's talk about that first. It's a fifth-generation aircraft, and the Russians are very keen that they outsmart the Americans insofar as the fifth-generation fighter aircrafts are concerned. So they are willing for technology transfer also. Now, India has two options. One is F-35s, which the Americans have offered, and Su-57 being offered by the Russians, with a difference that in the case of Americans, A, it's very expensive, and B, there is very limited or no technology transfer, while in the case of Russians, the option of technology transfer, tremendous amount of technology transfer, about which Peskov, Kremlin spokesperson, spoke yesterday in that press conference, that option is there. Apart from the fact, of course, that given the fact that Indian defense war machine essentially is of Russian vintage, with a legacy going back 50, 60, 70 years. In that sense, most of our manpower is trained on a Russian war machine, from the MiGs to Sukhois. So it would essentially amount just an upgrade, not only in terms of manufacturing, but also in terms of training, maintenance, etc. So that smooth glide path is there in case a decision is taken on Sukhoi 57s. Similarly, in the case of S-400, the platform really proved its tremendous utility and success in Operation Sindoor, and more of it is an order for more of it is in the pipeline, but obviously it depends on whether the Russians can really deliver and meet the timelines, because the earlier order still is pending. Of the five batteries that were ordered, two are still remain undelivered. So in that sense, I think it's going to be very important on the defense side, but the larger relationship, we should not lose sight of that. And all eyes, as I said, over the next 2 days on President Putin arriving in New Delhi and spending 1.5 days in meetings with Prime Minister Modi and delegation level talks, and of course the state banquet and meeting the president also.
Yeah, that is right, Abhishek. Well, thank you for getting us all those details. And like Abhishek told us, all eyes on that meet. The entire world will be watching as Modi and Putin shake hands. A handshake will be something to watch out for. Big deals on the table. Taking a short break. Do not go anywhere. Vladimir Putin to be in India, but